All right, everybody. In the One Life community, this is Matt Aitchison. We got an awesome show for you guys today. We are going to be focusing on optimum health and nutrition. So we got a fantastic guest. She's actually someone who I personally look up to, has done some amazing things in her career, has worked with some amazing people. So I want to introduce to our community Nina Rowan Heller. How are you doing, Nina?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And so I wanted to give Nina the opportunity to kind of introduce herself, tell everybody what you do, how you do it, who you work with, and kind of the space that you play in.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm Nina Rowan Heller, and I have been doing health and fitness with kind of a combination of mental health and spiritual health for about 25 years. I have a business in Austin, Texas, but it's also sort of everywhere. And so it is working with clients on the phone now, which is an interesting thing because it started out as a business where I was going from the mental health field. I was a family therapist, and I saw that there was a huge piece missing every time I worked with people. And I wanted to get beyond the sitting in a room and working with just verbal stuff. I wanted to make a bigger impact, and I've always done health and fitness on the side. So I sort of put them all together and started doing that work, and I started being a personal trainer to a lot of different people, and I sort of became an expert in two things. And one was that because of confidentiality, I was a therapist, and being a person that's confidential, I signed confidentiality agreements and never told people who my clients were, and that was a really good thing. The other was I became kind of an expert in understanding challenges and wanting to find a solution. I kind of love curiosity, and so people would say, I've got this problem no one can help me with, or they can't figure out how to get me out of pain, or whatever I'm struggling. And so I sort of became that person, and that's how my business grew. And you know me through working with Keller Williams, and Gary Keller has been a client for years, and a great opportunity to work with him as his trainer for many years, and getting to do that. Then I met my husband, who I met through Gary. Gary actually connected us, or he told him to ask me out. That's how that worked. And I ended up then starting to have a family in San Diego too, so my business evolved into doing coaching over the phone, which I had clients that I used to go see. I would go and spend a 3-day intensive with them, and then when those people moved away, I'd start to do things on the phone. And now I spend the majority of my time working with people on the phone. Sometimes people I never see, and some people I've never met. And they lose weight, get in better shape, change their lives, make these amazing things happen, and they're not actually working with me one-on-one in the gym, and it's kind of exciting. So
that's awesome, and that's one of the main reasons why I think you're really going to have a great impact and reach on our community, is whether you're on this side of the globe or this side of the globe, or we're face-to-face on a webinar, we actually have the opportunity, which I think people will see in some of the content that you're going to generously share with us, on some really tangible take-home things that can really transform the way fitness and nutrition are done without having to just be physically in presence and in the gym or sitting in front of you.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
I'm really excited to kind of dive into that. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to give people a little bit of an idea of who Nina Rowan Heller is. We're introducing this new to our One Life community on this webinar. We're going to do some rapid fire questions, and for all of our podcast people out there who like plugging into the podcast, this is kind of a popular trend of people introducing their guests to their listenership and sharing some information. So I'm going to dive in with you. I hope you're ready.
I'm ready. Rapid fire.
The first one is everybody who was at our One Life event in Reno this last year got to listen to Hal Elrod speak on the Miracle Morning. And it's become somewhat of a really popular topic. People are really intrigued with how are people setting up their day, and a lot of it's obviously starting in the morning before you even get your day going. So tell us a little bit about what does your morning routine look like, and how what kind of habits and routines have you implemented in order to set yourself up for success throughout the day?
And I thank you very much. This is one of the biggest questions I ask clients all the time. A successful day, I love the miracle morning, but a successful day a lot of times for clients that I see them struggle with is the night before. So I have a bedtime alarm. And a bedtime alarm because I love to work and I am inspired and passionate about helping people, and there's always things to do. So I have an alarm, and it changes what it says throughout my weeks and months because it depends on what I need to see. Sometimes it just says get ready for bed, and it just pings. Other times it says stop working, go to bed, and then I'm like, oh, got it. I sometimes have to be forceful. But that's what sets up my whole next day. So, because I always used to borrow from my sleep, and that has been a challenge. So I had to create an environment that supports me. So that's the first thing. So then in the morning, when I wake up, I use my iPad to wake up. And I have clients do this, and it's one of the best things that I have found that works is I do affirmations recorded into the voice memos and then have them wake me up in the morning. So the alarm is my voice doing my affirmations in the morning. And when you have that, it's a very different start in the morning. It used to be that I didn't put my feet on the floor until I had run through my affirmations and was in a really place of gratitude. And I would have an alarm that gave me a message. But once you have your voice memo where you're talking, when those mornings I need it more, I just let it play. And I stretch and breathe and move and do stuff until it really sinks in. And it changes. It changes about what I need for that time in my life. It doesn't stay the same. And it always is an I am. So if it is I am because I've been working really hard and I'm not as energetic as I want to be, it's I am energized, I am refreshed, I am ready to start my day. I am powerful, I am moving with amazing potential, I am open to new opportunities. It depends on what kinds of things I'm trying to achieve. And the reason why this is so important with your health is that you are programmed on a daily basis, thousands and thousands of times, negative things about your body. And women have been programmed since they were very, very, very young. But in general, all of us are programmed negatively. So you want to say, I am strong, I am powerful. My personal body has some challenges. I have scoliosis pretty severe. And so one of the things that I always have said is I am strong and straight and powerful because I have a curvature. And it's what was the gift that gave me the gift of understanding pain and also gave me the gift of wanting to work with people to get them out of pain and their challenges. So that's how I start my morning. My feet hit the ground when I'm in that space of gratitude and it goes through that. I then jump up, do the brushing the teeth, I drink some water, and I have a yoga mat that is right by that area, and I step over and I go through and do usually 20 minutes at least of yoga. If it's a big yoga morning, it might be longer. And so I'm not a huge morning exercise person, but I will tell you that 95% of people who are in leadership and successful in achieving do their exercise in the morning.
Interesting.
I don't love to exercise in the morning. I am not disciplined, but rather I've created enough of my environment that I will exercise in the evening. But I like to do yoga in the morning. So I like my flexibility component enough to do yoga in the morning, but very rarely do I jump on the treadmill or do any cardio or run and lift weights first thing in the morning, except on the weekends sometimes. So
awesome.
And that's how I start my day.
And I heard a lot of intertwining themes that I know you're going to dive into a little bit more. So I'll keep it moving. I want us to get to the bread and butter of what you're going to be talking about. Last one that I want, and I'll tag a few onto the end, and just so everybody knows, if you do have questions, we are taking questions, so type it into your side toolbar on this side or on that side. Not sure what side we're on, but we'll be leaving at least 10 minutes for you guys to get some of your questions answered by Nina, and take advantage of it. There's not too many opportunities that people get to tie this woman down. And next question I have for you is, what motivates and inspires you? What gets you excited?
I think it's been a while for me to really understand exactly what that is, because there's lots of things that seem to propel me forward. I love to find change, and I love to find the answer. So I love that curiosity. But I think the biggest issue, because I work with people, I know I change people's lives. And there is nothing more gratifying than to know that you have made a change in someone's life. I couldn't do any other work that I didn't feel changed someone's life. And so it really is motivating. A day of working with clients, at the end of my day, I am totally energized. And when I go on vacation, I love vacation, but I lose that feedback loop that I get, and I can tell that it's missing. And I love my free time, but it is really inspiring. So getting to just work with people and know that I've made a difference is what really inspires me to keep doing.
Well, I'll give you some feedback. For the short time that I've been blessed with our friendship, you have significantly impacted a lot of stuff in our space. So that's why we really had to bring this opportunity to other people in the community. So why don't we dive in, and just so everybody knows, on the link that we sent out to you guys, there's actually a worksheet that Nina provided for you guys, and it's really somewhat of an interactive worksheet. It's going to tie in, one, with the content that she's going to be going over today. It's also going to help you guys kind of work through some of these ahas that I'm guessing she's going to kind of purposefully invite out. So why don't, if you guys have the opportunity to pull up, great, utilize this sheet. If not, grab a piece of paper and pen. I know I'm avidly taking notes, so why don't you dive right in and kind of get us going on what you planned on talking about today.
All right, great. And you will see me throughout the course of this chat that I'm picking up my water, and you all are going to learn. This is one of the healthiest things you can do, and it's easy. So cheers. So before we get started, the reason I like to use a worksheet when I teach, and I teach lots of classes on the phone actually, and they have workbooks. The sheet's about you. So this worksheet that you have, if you download, or even if you're just going to take notes, it is the way that as things are coming into your mind and what you're thinking about, I want you to write down what's coming out of your mind. It's for you. It is absolutely peeling back the layers of you. In order to make change in our health, the number one place we have to start is understanding us. There are so many programs out there that say, do this and you will have a change. And because I'm 50 years old this year, I know those programs are something you can decide to do, but they aren't who you are. And if you can learn how to make something about who you are, that's how your life changes and you can create good health. So this is why we want to know about who you are. You want to know about who you are. So I sent out this sheet, and you've got building your foundation. And the reason why I start and understand is that building your foundation has to do with, if you can find one thing that you make a big change about, incremental changes will make a difference. You want to embrace that change, build off of that. From having the success, it creates power. Being in the background of mental health and working with a lot of different people, and I've had the opportunity to work with people that are professional athletes, Olympians, movie stars, and there's a very, very simple thing that you notice in people that are having success, and it is that they build on things and make these incremental differences. The motivation is often different. If you're making $20 million a picture, you will work out very hard. If you're getting paid a professional athlete salary, you may work very hard. In our life, we have to discover what is it that makes us want to work hard, but it also is to understand why we're doing it and who we are. Because for those people who do it for a movie or a performance on television or a performance in a sport, when they stop that sport, you may see their health go away. So what I'm more excited about is actually seeing your health continue to build. So each little piece changes things. So we have 3 categories that I put out, and I'm just going to go through each of these categories. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about, as we're going through the category, you sort of think about, is this something I'm really interested in, or what are my thoughts about this, or how do I feel? Because if I start talking about cardio and you hear in your head, I hate cardio, I don't like to go do cardio, cardio's always bothered me, I never have gotten a benefit, whatever it is that's talking, make some notes next to it so that you understand maybe that's not your powerful place to pick. Because we want to start with something, okay? And that creates our domino that will then start everything else. So I want to give you guys some basics about each of these categories so that you can have a great place to start and pick, okay? So the first one is exercise, because whenever we're talking about health, people are always talking about exercise. Your exercise and your nutrition. I cannot exercise enough to cancel out anyone's poor nutrition. That's really important to know. You don't get to eat everything without a price if you exercise all the time. The reality is, if you're eating poorly, it's impacting you on a cellular level. It may not change your weight, but it's actually changing your health, and you're going to pay for it later. So you need to understand, my exercise and my nutrition go really hand in hand. So you don't want to think of exercise as I'm doing it just to cancel out my food. You want to say, if I'm going to exercise, I need to understand what it's about and why, okay? So we've got 3 categories on our exercise: cardio, flexibility, and strength. And when you look at these 3, a lot of times what people will find is that they find they really like one of them. And they'll say, you know, I love to run. I'm a marathoner and I'm a runner. Or I love to do my yoga, and I do a hatha yoga class, and it's wonderful and it's great. Or I love to go lift weights. So a lot of times people are not doing the collection of these things. And for long-term health, what you really want is you want to take components of each one of these. You want to have cardio, flexibility, and strength. And I'm going to tell you which one is actually the most important. And the reason I'm going to give it the most importance is because it impacts the other 2, okay? And so flexibility is the most important.
I knew it.
What's interesting is that if you are more flexible, your cardio performance improves. You get more benefit from your cardio. So you will have a more beneficial program. You will be able to get more productive time from your cardio if you're more flexible. The muscle that has a lot of flexibility gets more work. It pumps more blood and oxygen. You actually are burning calories better. Your heart is working better. All of the muscles work better if they're more flexible. Flexibility is something that changes as we age. And if you are not paying attention, it changes pretty significantly. So the flexibility component impacts cardio. It also impacts strength, because when you're looking at your strength training, it's the same kind of thing, that you're looking at the muscle girth, width, and band that it actually can perform. And if it's really tight, you have a limited amount of performance. And there's a bodybuilder, his name is John Perillo. And John Perillo learned probably 15 years ago that when he had bodybuilders doing strength training and flexibility, that his bodybuilders had greater improvements. And I was a bodybuilder many, many, many years ago, and understanding how to change a body is great, and understanding at that level that you can see what changes happen you really can see your strength training and your musculature change if you're more flexible. So you're looking at those three areas. Your cardiovascular is important. It's not just because it burns fat, but it actually exercises your heart. So if you've got any heart disease, any kind of blood pressure, high blood pressure, cholesterol, atrial fib, any of those kinds of things in your family, if you're looking at your family dynamics and people have heart attacks, open heart surgery, angioplasty, stents, all of those in your life, cardio is important on that level even more than you can possibly imagine. It will make the difference between whether or not you survive longer. Okay, but for everybody else, cardiovascular fitness is really going to make everything work better. It also is anti-aging. Okay, I use that because there's some powerful motivation for anti-aging. But what you see is you work with people, my oldest client that are in their 90s, and circulation will be the thing that you will notice as you get older that tells I'm really feeling old. People, you can see it in their hands and feet, where they're losing their circulation. So cardiovascular fitness and flexibility together keep that circulation, and that keeps your anti-aging in check. And believe it or not, it actually changes whether or not you have wrinkles. If you see someone who does a lot of cardiovascular exercise, they will have fewer wrinkles if they are not overtraining. So when you see a long distance runner, you may see them, they actually may be going into catabolic mode where they're feeding off their own body because they're running too far or too much compared to what they're eating. They'll have more wrinkles, or they may have more wrinkles from being in the sun. But people who keep consistent cardiovascular exercise will have fewer wrinkles. Okay? So I like to hit all the areas. It's important for your health, but it also, the thing that motivates people oftentimes is looks. There are three reasons that people ever contact me, and it's because they've had a major health crisis, they've got a big, high visibility performance, or they're in pain. And those three reasons never keep you doing a lifestyle change. Those three reasons get you to change, but they don't make you do a lifestyle change. So when you're looking at that cardiovascular flexibility and strength training, you want to understand I'm trying to do it long term where it becomes as easy as brushing your teeth. So if you are thinking about brushing your teeth and you're a 3-year-old that's learning how to brush your teeth, you wake up in the morning and your mom says, let's brush your teeth, and you go, I don't want to brush my teeth, I don't like it, it takes a long time, you haven't mastered it. At night you may argue about it, it turns into a big drama. What you have to be careful about is you don't want to put health in the same category. You want it to become like brushing your teeth. I don't go through a decision tree to decide, do I exercise today? You just have chosen what you want to do to exercise. So if exercise is one of the things you're going to pick from this day when we're talking, pick something that you say, I think I can actually commit to doing this on a daily basis until I build up the power that it becomes like brushing my teeth. So you don't do the decision tree and say, am I going to exercise? You say, when am I going to exercise? And eventually that decision tree goes away and you stop saying, when am I going to exercise? And you say, what am I going to do after I exercise? You don't even ask yourself about the exercise. So when you travel, you make sure, and you always pack your exercise gear. You always have all your stuff. You say, where I'm going, what do I want to be doing? So the cardiovascular, flexibility, and strength, you want to add all those components. Your flexibility can be yoga. It can be a lot of aggressive stretching or passive stretching if you have someone else do it. It can be a massage. If you have a massage therapist that you tell, I want you to really work on stretching for me for at least part of it. And I'm a big believer in massage therapy. It's the only passive therapeutic exercise that you do if you incorporate stretching.
I want to point something out real quick.
Sure.
You just mentioned that flexibility, we can start with flexibility in the exercise category by going and getting a massage.
Yes, and that should like make you go, I can do this.
I
I
got
can
this.
do this. You know, and my four clients that I've worked with for over 20 years that are all in their 90s, they have three things in common. They exercise every day. They get massages, some of them more than once a week. And they have determined that stress is not part of their life. And those three things, and there is a benefit to being older because they say, I have things that have happened for 70 plus years, 80, now 90. I'm not going to lose life force because I know that they resolve, they work themselves out, and there'll be another issue.
I love it.
And so it's our wisdom. It's too bad that we don't have as many people out there that we really turn to say, let me have your sage wisdom advice, because
Right.
they have lots of information to share with us. It's a gift that
So,
I get.
so before we move on to nutrition, I want to invite everybody on the side toolbar as Nina drinks her water and hydrates. Click on your Q&A section if you haven't already done so, and that'll allow us to, we see some questions rolling in here. If you're unable to type in a question, type the Q&A on your side of your Google Hangout chat and enter a question. I got one question from one of our viewers before you move on to nutrition, and they asked, how does one start working out after years of inactivity?
That is a great question. And so what's interesting with that is you want to start simple, okay? It's not easy, but it's simple. So what I would encourage you to do is just to walk. The number one thing that I see for people that makes the biggest change in their life in regards to exercise, if people want to change, is to walk daily. And I teach a class, and we have homework in the class, and it's 16 weeks. And the first week, we start at 10 minutes a day. And you develop a discipline of walking every day for 10 minutes the first week. Second week, it goes to 15. We build up until we're getting up to 30 minutes, and they have other things. If you do one thing and change, walking every day, if you have not been exercising, is the best thing you can do. And it's because it does two areas. It does here and your body. If you commit to walking every day, what you end up becoming is a person who validates, my health is important, this time is important, I'm going to go do this. And so you start to be able to make different decisions in your life about yourself. You start to be able to say, I'm going to make a different choice about my food. I'm going to make a choice about going to bed on time. I'm going to make a choice about taking care of me instead of saying yes to somebody else but not to me. And so walking on a daily basis creates a great discipline. And then once you do that, you start to feel powerful enough that you could go into a gym and you could say, now I'm ready to start, I'll take a class. And I will learn how to do an exercise machine I've never understood before. And the thing that people to understand, I have been weight training since I was 14 years old. And I still will walk into gyms and go, I don't even know what that is. What is that piece of equipment? The difference is I feel perfectly fine about going through the learning curve. And if you can embrace that, you can do anything. Because I'll sit down and I'll think, what is this? And I mean, I've done a lot of lifting weights and working in gyms and working out, and there's still weird equipment that you'll see, and you're like, I don't understand why they think that's effective. And then you figure it out. Be okay with the learning curve and ask for help.
It's a great point. Yeah, Darren Hardy wrote about it in his book, The Compound Effect, where one woman, she wanted to run a full marathon, yet she was basically 300 pounds and hadn't run a mile in over 10 years. She started with walking around her neighborhood. Then she started with running around the block. And she started with running around 4 blocks, and she basically saw those results start to compound. And like you said, through that discipline, you start gaining a newfound confidence and embrace the learning curve. And you also, results become addicting. So you invite on new, exciting opportunity to gain the results that you desire. And like you said, it just starts with that one little thing like walking. So, Tim, I hope that was a good answer to your question, and we'll move into nutrition.
All right, all right. So, nutrition. There are 3 areas that I put under nutrition. And this, to understand, the diet and fitness industry is billions of dollars of failing, okay? Companies exist just for the sole purpose of getting you in the loop of failing. When I started doing presentations, 15, 20 years ago, and one of the things that I started realizing is the loop that people go through is very, very similar to the battered women syndrome. It's a learned helplessness, okay? So with nutrition, what I want you to think about is I want you to cancel crazy thinking, and I want you to go really simple, okay? So we have 3 things written down there with nutrition: water, protein, veggies. Okay. One of these 3 areas in nutrition, you pick one and it will change you. Okay. So the very first one is water. That one is listed there. If that's the area that you say I'm going to change, Rachel changed, Matt's partner, changed everything with that domino, with water. And because I told her that this is a game changer for most people. If you go through the list of things that water impacts, because dehydration is impacting you, the list is phenomenal. Energy, pain, fatigue, headaches, joint aches, muscle aches. You have so many issues in your health in general with water. So this is a big domino for a lot of people. You just start drinking water. And it's really funny. People say all the time, I want something easy. And I say, okay, if I had a pill, would you take it? And they're like, yeah, okay, well, then you'd have to drink some water to take the pill. So I would just encourage you to pretend you're taking a magic pill every time you drink water. And just say, this is my magic pill. I'm getting healthy. I have had people, when I do an annual presentation at Keller Williams at their big family reunion event, every year I tell people, come back next year, you tell me what has changed out of one thing that you picked. People stand up all the time and say that water was one of their big dominoes, and it changed everything.
And how much do you recommend per day consumption-wise for the average human?
So the average person, what you want to start with is, if you don't drink any water, you want to start with the goal of half your body weight in ounces. Okay? So if you weigh 100 pounds, which very few people do, my left leg weighs 100 pounds. If you weigh 100 pounds, it would be 50 ounces of water, okay? And if you don't get water right now, I would encourage you to drink at least 1 or 2 glasses first thing in the morning. It starts your body believing, hey, we're going to be hydrated today. What's a really weird thing is your body says, I don't believe you, I hold water. So the more dehydrated you are, the more fluid you actually hold. But what I call that is you kind of a dirty sponge at that point, because instead of rinsing your sponge, your body's holding on to old water that it says we need to dilute things, so we need to keep this on us. So the more water you drink, the leaner you actually get. So half your body weight is where to start. I would work up to a full ounce per pound. And if you're trying to lose weight, that's something that's very interesting. You will find that just drinking water, you can drop 5 to 7 pounds if you have not been drinking water. And immediately people are like, I can lose weight if I drink water. Yes, you can lose weight if you drink water. And so that's pretty easy, again. And you'll see that your weight will go down and your water needs will go, and you'll start to meet yourself. So it's very, very easy to be drinking water. 20 years ago, we didn't have bottled water. I would have to tell people to stop at the McDonald's and buy a cup with ice. It costs you 5 cents to 15 cents, and then they put water in it, and that would be your water on the road. So there's not any excuse anymore to not have water. So that's one of the big dominoes for nutrition. And one of the reasons also is because we are a hydrolyzed environment, which means all of our cells function in a water environment. It's like we are an ocean on the inside, okay? So the next 2 dominoes for nutrition, protein and veggies, is when you're eating, the more hydrated you are, the better all your digestion works. So the reason I put protein and veggies down there is that those are the 2 clean fuels that exist, okay? I want to use the word fuel because it's food, but we use food for entertainment. And I want you to just understand that food is actually your energy source, not caffeine. It's real energy. So protein is your building. That's fixing all your muscles, tissues. It's the replacement. It builds. It's the building fuel. And then veggies and clean carbs, which are complex carbs that take a lot. That's what is running around burning fuel. For most people, they get a lot of simple carbs. That's the number one problem that we see, and that's why people are saying, you know, I've got gluten intolerance and all kinds of things, because your environment, this hydrolyzed environment that you have, becomes full of carbohydrates, which creates basically sort of an environment on its own, okay? But protein and veggies are really, everybody can eat lean protein every meal. It helps your body. People typically are not getting enough protein. And then lots and lots of veggies, 5 to 7 servings of veggies. The reason I don't have fruit on there is because most people are also getting enough sugar in their regular diet, not even looking for it, that it is contributing to some of their challenges. So vegetables have a lower glycemic index, and so you can eat a ton of vegetables. You can eat so many vegetables that you can feel much fuller, so you get satiated without all the sugar. And it's interesting, I have clients all the time that I'll tell them, I want you to go, just this week, go look at the cans, things that you eat, things you buy, and just flip the label and look, and you will see sugar is in almost everything. It's really, really, really an epidemic that is causing problems in our society. Diabetes will be the number one reason our health insurance system fails. And it's totally preventable, but it's because we use sugar in everything. I had a client that sent me a text yesterday, and she said, I was horrified. I was buying soup and that there's sugar in it. And so you get nickel and dime with sugar all the time, not even knowing it. So you want to make sure water, protein, or veggies, if you just pick one of those, each one of them will actually empower you to get stronger and more powerful about your nutrition in general. You'll start to feel a difference. It makes a difference. So Matt, do you have any questions about nutrition?
Yeah, so on sugar, Nina, what's really a healthy, because there's good sugars and bad sugars, right? So we have all of the processed sugars, and then we have the natural sugars. What is a healthy balance between the two, and what is somewhat of a safe zone that our body can naturally process without feeling that overload?
It's interesting because if your body is out of balance, that safe zone is much, much lower. Okay, so there's a term that didn't even exist until about 15 years ago, pre-diabetic.
Right.
Okay, and if you're in that zone where your body metabolizes sugar differently, your safe zone is much, much lower. Typically, under 60 grams of sugar, if you're in a good place, you work okay during the day under 60 grams of sugar. The challenge is most people are getting at least twice that amount when they don't even notice it. The smoothies. People go and they're like, I'm making smoothies. I love my NutriBullet. Or I go to one of the smoothie stores. And if you understand about the sugar that's in that, we used to have juice glasses that were little, okay? In the 50s, 60s, 70s, juice glasses were this little bitty glass. And you got about 4 to 6 ounces of juice. That was about 15 to 20 grams of sugar. The juice of an orange, okay? We sell juice by the gallon. We give people giant glasses. And so in 8 ounces, there's about 30 grams of sugar. So
Wow.
When you get a big glass of juice and you're like, that's a 12-ounce glass of juice, you're like 45 grams of sugar for the glass of juice. And what it does is it starts to wreak havoc on your blood sugar. And so you're doing that not even realizing that you do it. So that's why when people are looking at making a dramatic change, just by drinking more water, eating protein and veggies, you aren't going to get the refined sugars. The refined sugars and fructose, both of them function the same way to impact your blood sugar level. The fructose, though, interestingly enough, actually is metabolized differently. And so it metabolizes quicker to fat. And so if people want to be leaner, bodybuilders don't do fruit that want to be lean. They do only veggies. And so there's a difference. It'll show up. And if you're going to have your fruit, have it early, okay? Because that's your running around. Your sugars are your running around fuel. So that's why in the evening, if you had an evening meal of lean protein and veggies, you are using those calories. If you have an evening meal with pasta and bread, now you've got a bunch of running around fuel. And what do you do after dinner? Most people aren't running around.
Right.
So that's why your fuel, if it matches up with what your behavior is, at the end of the day, you end up at the baseline and you start over the next day. You're in maintenance. But what happens is most people do that inverted. You had a question, I can tell.
I was going to say, one of the questions is, what is your favorite fuel meal?
Ooh, this is good. Okay, so my favorite fuel meal, and people are going to think this is maybe a little weird. Over the years, I buy eggs like I am the Easter Bunny, okay? There is a part of me that's very frugal, and you will see me in the grocery store with 4 dozen eggs, and you're like, what's going on here? You've got 4 dozen eggs. Well, between my husband and I, if I'm training really hard, I will always eat 6 to 8 egg whites in the morning plus other things. If I'm on the run and I've got other things that I'm eating and I'm not training really hard, I might do 4 egg whites plus some smoked salmon or something and some veggies. But my favorite meal, my favorite go-to meal is I love frittatas and I love to throw everything in them. So if I do 6 to 8 egg whites and then I open up the refrigerator and I see what all kinds of things I have in there, and it's like this interesting creative thing and totally healthy. So it's like if I have smoked salmon, I'll put smoked salmon and I'll saute a little spinach and some amazing olive oil and I'll throw that in there and some mushrooms and tomatoes and sriracha. I love sriracha. Oh. And that is like no guilt. I love it. It makes me go off and have an amazing day, and it's totally creative. So that's my favorite fuel meal.
Love it. Love it. Okay, awesome. So we'll wrap up with, I know basically number 3 is probably the most important pillar for the other 2 to happen, and we've had some good chats on this. So share a little bit about the mindset techniques that you help your clients implement and work towards mastery on.
Okay, so the first thing I want to do is everybody that is on this chat, I want you to take a moment and I want you to get really present. I want you to think about what makes this call important. What is the reason that you decided, I want to listen to this? And then I want you to scan your body, and I want you just to get really present about feeling it. I want you to feel your body because we're having a physical moment, and we're going to talk about mindset, and I want your body and your mind to be connected. So as you take a deep breath, I want you just to breathe and feel your whole body and kind of understand, now you're here, we're talking about this, what's important. The thing about mindset, when I'm working with clients, we can spend a ton of time getting into all the things that don't work and all the programs you've been running in your head. What's more important is to understand what you can do to make a shift. Okay, so when we're talking about mindset, there are 3 things that I put there: sacred time, journaling, and then I lumped meditation and prayer together because some people treat them as the same. If you can think about you and you can do what we just did, that getting present, you will be able to slow down time. Time actually slows down when you're in your physical body. If you want to question that, go sit in a doctor's office and don't have your PDA or your iPhone or any of that. Just sit. All of a sudden, you will get very, very clear. You will feel your body. You will understand, I am sitting, I'm waiting, and time will slow down. You actually have the opportunity to do that if you get present. And the reason we put that to start is I want you to understand you have this key with you all the time. So when we look at sacred time, journaling, meditation, and prayer, these are all powerful things to connect to make what we just did actually a possibility 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay? So the sacred time is expanding what we just did and putting it in your calendar and making that time for you. So it could be to do a simple pleasure. It could be to spend time outdoors. If you actually sit in the grass under a tree, it feels different than when you sit in your office or sit in a chair inside. Sacred time where you don't take any information in and you just be. If you need to start with 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I have people that do this in their car because they want to be able to do it often, and they will walk out of their office, go sit in their car, they call it their pod, and they'll sit and they'll say, this is my time where I'm just going to get centered again. And they do that, spend a little time, then go back into their office. You want to make sure that you're doing sacred time where energy is coming in. So it's the moment where you get physical and mental connection, your mind and body, but it also is things that fuel you. So the reason I mentioned simple pleasures, if you have simple pleasures where you like to watch your kids play, you need to stop and do it. Watch your kids play, and you feel the energy come back to you. If you have a simple pleasure of cooking, or if you have a simple pleasure of, I do puzzles, and people laugh at this, but you can do a I Love Puzzles app. I can pull out a puzzle and it changes my mindset and I can recalibrate. Repetitive and reflective. And I don't mean reflective as I'm thinking about things, or sorry, reflexive. Movements make your mind calm down. So that's why puzzles, knitting, needlepoint, bouncing a ball, doing something like that, it makes you have a reflex and it's repetitive. It makes your mind calm down. Our nervous system is off the charts for most people. And this sacred time changes that. The journaling piece. If I told you, I want you to hire somebody to write down what's going on in your life. I want them to take notes. I want them to be able to open up your brain and see and understand what you're thinking. And I want them to put it all on paper for you. It would be a job that would be at least, because that's a 24-hour-a-day job, maybe we count sleeping, 18 hours or so a day. It's at least a couple $100,000 job to find somebody to run around and follow you that much, okay? You journaling is your job. If you hired somebody else to go do it, that you get to say, this is worth $100,000 to $200,000 if I actually just write some things down that I observed today about me and about my life and about things that came into my world. Journaling is the piece that when I have clients, I will tell them, I want you to journal, and I'd like you to, and I'll give them topics to journal about. What's interesting is people fight it, and then once they do it, then they start to see it as this tool, and once they notice it as a tool, then they realize, oh my gosh, I need this tool. It gives me clarity, and there are very few things in the world that give you this much clarity as journaling. You can go back and you have review sessions to read in your journal. You will go, I am so brilliant. It's amazing what you write down. When we are counseling ourselves only with our mind, and not ever saying it out loud or writing it on paper, this stuff actually doesn't have the kind of accuracy that it does when you write it down. So that's why journaling is so important. And then the meditation and prayer. There's a quote that says meditation or prayer is the question, meditation is the answer. If you are doing a lot of praying but not meditating, it can be like having a child saying 100 questions in a row but never stopping to hear the answer. Meditation is the time to quiet your mind, and you'd be surprised how often that your mind is not quiet, and when it's not quiet, you often end up on the wrong path. So when a quiet mind is happening, it's like getting the information of the directions from your app or whatever in your phone, Google Maps. That's what a quiet mind does. When your mind is not quiet, it is like driving without knowing where you are. So you want that meditation component. And to understand about sacred time journaling, meditation, and prayer, and this mindset is a practice. If you wanted to become a concert pianist, tomorrow you will not be a concert pianist. You will start by doing the scales. So you want to do the mindset as a practice. Start 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and then work on it, and it will build, and it becomes more and more powerful.
Yeah, there's some great applications for people out there looking to plug into meditation. There's Headspace. There's an app called Calm. I know Deepak Chopra and Oprah have a 21-day challenge actually coming up together. It's free, so you can register online. But meditation is one of those things where it truly transforms, and it's really hard to even explain until you give yourself the opportunity to plug in and, like you said, are just open to kind of taking the steps in that direction. I personally never even considered meditation, never thought about meditation, had no idea what the benefits of it were, and I got introduced to this crazy group of guys who were living life at a very high level, and all of them said, meditation is really what transformed my life and my being and allowed me to live at a much higher efficiency and much higher consciousness as well. So I really love the mindset piece.
I love, Matt, too, that you bring up, if you want to make a big change in meditation, there's a couple different ways of doing it, but having a meditation group is powerful. If you just met once a month, once a week to start to learn the practice, when you do anything in a group, it's amplified. And so you can do guided meditations. You don't have to have anybody in the group guide them. You can get a guided meditation CD. On my website, there's actually a CD that I've been using for 20 years. It's one of Andrew Weil's CDs called 8 Meditations for Optimal Health. The reason I love that CD, and I have people use it all the time, and it's not the easiest one to get a hold of. That's why I have on my website, it connects you to wherever it is, you can still get it. But none of the meditations are longer than 10 minutes. And people will make a commitment for an 8-minute meditation. And what I would encourage you to do, if you do something like that, is do that meditation every day and keep one of the meditations. Don't change it up. You're trying to establish a pattern.
Right.
If you fall asleep, that's okay. That's okay. Your mind is still getting the information. So eventually you will learn how to stay awake. But just start with that.
And just so people know, we'll obviously have the resources and information and topics that we've talked about in a lot of this, and you're just sharing a super small amount of information on all that you have to offer on this. So how can people get a hold of you, Nina? What is your website that we can send them to? And we'll also have all your contact information on if anybody wants to enroll in your coaching or discuss what that looks like with you. How can they get a hold of you, and where should we send them?
All right, Rowan Health, so that's ROWAN health.com is the website. And Nina, Nina, at Rowan Health is probably the easiest. There are Facebook pages under Nina Rowan Heller, and we've got classes and groups and things. I personally, though, if you send me an email, that's the quickest thing for me. So Nina at RowanHealth.com.
Perfect.
And oh, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, just so Nina, through the amount of emails she receives every day, put in the subject line, "One Life Fully Lived." That way she knows who she's responding to and what the content is regarding. And to wrap up a few questions as we're coming towards the end of the show, one, you mentioned the groups. And one of the awesome things that we have in our community is there's so many different groups around the country and outside the country now that are utilizing each other as accountability buddies and accountability groups in order to really help hold one another, one, not only accountable, but to push each other and challenge each other, because we know that results are obviously increased when you have someone holding you accountable. So I encourage anybody through our One Life community, get out there, get a group. We always have conversation going on after these amazing hangouts to start a group and reach out to people who are interested in kind of similar topics. So we'll start posting some stuff on the One Life page as well.
That would be great. And anybody that has a group, I get very excited about, again, my passion is to help people. If you have a group and you say, okay, we're going to set up this group, can you give us just a few things to talk about this or whatever, I'm happy to do that. And I do that all the time. I do a lot of different things for whatever people need, because sometimes it's just, again, the diet and fitness industry is lots of failing industry of books and misinformation, and you just want to keep it simple and start being supported and connected to each other, and it makes a huge change. And I would say to become an implementer, not a searcher. If things have not been working for you, don't keep searching. Implement one thing that we talked about, and then you start to build that power. You can spend a lifetime searching, and what we find is once you put action to it, you actually will get power and just keep building from that power and make change.
Ooh, that was good. Don't be a searcher, be an implementer.
Implementer. Oh, I love the searchers because they have great questions, but I always say the best question I just have to share. I get this while I'll be talking to a room full of people, it'll be 1,000 people, and someone raises their hand and says, what's the best time to exercise? And you know what my first response always is? Because I know the answer that they're going to give me. What time are you exercising right now? And they're like, I'm not. That's the whole thing. They're like, I'm looking for the best time. I'm like, no, just start exercising.
Anytime.
Your schedule. Yes. So
I love it. Okay, so as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one question, and I think this was one that you liked, and I really am excited to hear what the response is. If you could tell your 20-year-old self a piece of advice on health, nutrition, fitness, what would that be?
Ooh, okay. So I would tell my 20-year-old self to stop paying attention to judgment.
Ooh.
Stop listening to judgment. Judgment is a backward energy. It makes you turn your head and look and judge and be critical about what you have done. I would tell my 20-year-old self, just pay attention to what's ahead of you. Stop looking back. It doesn't matter. That's just information. If you want to catalog it and write it down, say, I've done these things, it is nothing but information. No judgment. There are no mistakes. Everything that's happened up to this point is made who you are. And whatever your journey has been is your journey, and it makes you who you are. So then when you decide to change the path, that information is important. That's your time in the trench. But you don't want to judge it and keep saying, because that puts you in the cycle of failure. You want to just say, that's what I have done, here's what I learned, now what am I doing forward? And I would love it if you get to do that, because you get to go back and do things all different. But the wisdom of age, there's nothing like it.
Well, Nina, thank you so much. I want to extend a huge thank you. We love you. You're awesome for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I got myself a ton of notes, and I know our community, based on the activity we're seeing here, got a lot of great information from it. So due to time, I could ask you another 50 questions, but we got to wrap up. So I just want to say thank you, And if you guys want to
My
reach
pleasure.
out to Nina, you know how to get a hold
You
of
want to
her.
reach out to me, and it's my pleasure to do this because part of my big why I do things is the planet needs a lot of health, and so I want it to just keep spreading. Nina at Rowan Health, that's ROWAN health.com. Just send me an email and put One Life Fully Lived in the subject line. Then I can know to answer you guys because I get probably 700 emails a day. So that way I'll look for you, flag you guys down, and be able to respond quickly.
You are awesome. So you guys heard it from Nina. Don't be a searcher, be an implementer. Get out there, live one life fully lived. We love our community. We love you. Thanks, Nina. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Take
Take
care,
care,
everyone.
everyone.